Now we're to the stage of adding the maintenance coats of varnish to the teak wood. We've unpackaged it, we've got things going, and we need to do, it comes with 5 coats of sprayed varnish from Specialty Marine. If you get it unvarnished from Specialty Marine, then it would just be bare, and you would need to do all, at least a bare minimum of 5 coats, and possibly up to 8 to 10 or even 12 coats of varnish. So when you get your teak wood that's already varnished with the 5 coats of Captain's Varnish, it'll look great. And a lot of people are concerned about when you go to add the additional coats of varnish, how does that work? And they're kind of concerned about messing up this nicely finished teak. So what you're going to do, starting off with, is we're going to take some sandpaper, 220 grit. Got my helper Seth here, he's going to help me. We've got several pieces laid out. So this will apply to any of the Specialty Marine teak wood that comes already varnished with 5 coats on it. I've got several pieces here that I'm doing, but it'll apply to any of them. And I've got 220 grit, so we'll do that in between every coat of varnish until we get to the very last coat. The last coat or two, we'll want to go up to a finer grit, maybe a 320, a 400, or even maybe a 600. So we'll do that at the last couple coats to just make it real smooth. So we're going to take our sandpaper, sand the wood with the grain if possible. And it's going to look bad. You're going to be scratching it up, you're going to be smoothing it out, and you're going to be opening those pores in the varnish for the next coat. So we're going to sand it all lightly, not real heavy. We're not trying to take all the varnish off, just a nice light sanding on all the teak. So Seth's going to start on that piece. I'm going to start down here. Silas is my video man. He can come here and he can kind of watch me do some of this. So when we sand it in, we're going to go with the grain, just a nice light sanding. It's going to dull it. It's going to look pretty dull.
Okay.
Turn it around so you can get to it. Go all the way around with the grain. So we got that piece done. So go ahead, and if you're working on multiple pieces, I'd recommend you kind of do them in bulk and do all your pieces, get them all sand down. Just a real light sanding. Don't be concerned that it looks bad. Once again, it's going to look dull. Whoops. Give me that piece, Seth. Thank you, buddy. It's going to look a little dull. That's perfectly fine. Work your way around, sand all the sides. And you're going to do this, ideally you're going to do, at least 3 more coats. Ideally you do 5 to 8 coats, depending on how much time you have. If you can do up to 10 or even 12 coats, that's best. The more coats you do now before you install it, the longer it will last, that you won't have to do additional maintenance coats, after you've installed it and after it's been sitting out in the sun for a little while. So I would highly recommend do at least a few maintenance coats. Maybe go ahead and do as many as 5 or 7. Another thing to keep in mind is that these come sprayed on. The coat, from the factory, when they put this varnish on, it comes sprayed, and sprayed coats are thinner than if you use a brush. So especially since they're sprayed, you want to do several more coats, probably 5 more. If you're using a brush, which probably most people are, unless you've got a setup where you can do some spray. I'll come back to this one, but I do want to show you over here. I've got a lot of pieces hanging up over here. You don't have to do this. I like to hang up these small pieces, or pieces that you need to do both sides. You can use a rope, you can use a piece of wire or some sort of line. And I've just got some wire here that I've cut up and made little hangers that go through the existing holes or underneath the corners, so that I can go ahead and sand, or more importantly, when I go to varnish it, I have the ability that I can actually varnish all the way around. So you don't have to do that. That's entirely up to you. You could do one side and then you can do the other, but hanging them up can work well to help get it done faster. So get all your pieces sanded down, and then we'll move to actually putting the varnish on it. So we've just finished lightly sanding all of our pieces, all of our teak wood. Whether you've got the louvered doors or the fishing rod holders, either underneath the gunnels or on front of the console. Also, we've got the wood back for the RPS, the reversible pilot seat. I would say for any of these places that I kind of have some difficult spots to get to, you don't have to get them perfect and getting every tiny nook and cranny. Just sand what you can. Get some areas inside this teak seat on the back side here. You know, I sanded it on the inside. And just get what you can. Get the grooves and the corners as best you can. So the next step will be, now that you've sanded this, there'll be a lot of dust, and that's normal. And they look bad. That's normal. Look dull and cloudy, and they're dusty, as I mentioned. So we're going to take some rags. You can use, I just like to use a damp rag. So you can get a wet rag, squeeze it out really well, and we're just going to wipe down all the pieces. So you just take all your pieces and just wipe them down, get all the dust on them off. And you're going to notice when you wipe them down, they look really good all of a sudden, all that dust. But when they dry, you'll notice that some of the scratches come back. They'll be more visible. That's normal, completely normal after you sand it. So you're just going to wipe it down, get all the dust of it off. And then after we do that, we'll actually get to varnishing. So I'm going to go ahead and wipe down the rest of these pieces. If you look over here, I went ahead and sanded down all the pieces that I've got hanging up. So we'll go ahead and wipe down those as well. Wipe down all the nooks and crannies and get those all cleaned up. And then after you wipe them down, you're going to want to let them dry for a few minutes just to make sure that there's no moisture, no residue, anything like that on them. So get them all wiped down and let them dry. So we're going to do that. All right, so now we've got everything wiped down. Silas, if you'll kind of pan across, we've got everything hanging up, wiped down. Up here, you can look over at the table. We've got everything there wiped down, all these different pieces of teak. And as they've dried, you'll notice that you kind of see the scratches that are visible. That's normal. All right, Silas, look back over here. I'm using Captain's Varnish 1015 by Pettit. That's what Specialty Marine uses for theirs, so I'm going to keep using that same finish. When you open this up, you don't want to shake it, you just want to stir lightly. You don't want to get all the air mixed into the Captain's Varnish. So you're going to open that up, get a stir stick, and you're just going to stir it gently to make sure everything in it is mixed up nice and well. Give that a good little stir. Once it's stirred, grab your brush. The nicer brush you have, the better. These actually aren't very nice brushes, but that's all right. The varnish, when you paint it on, you might see some lines on it, but after it settles, a minute, several seconds, 30 seconds after you paint it on, all those lines kind of smooth out. So take your varnish, come over here, and I'm going to start on one of these pieces here. I'm not going to probably paint the back side of these. They're going to be mounted flat against something, so I'm going to do all the other sides. You're going to get your varnish, and you're just going to go with the grain. And what you want to do is you don't want to do super thick coats. You're going to do primarily, you're going to do thin coats all the way around. Nice thin coats. Make sure you get good coverage. You want to cover all the spots. Go back and forth with the grain. And you're going to notice immediately all those scratches and everything that you saw, all the haze, that's going to go away. And it's going to look real nice. You do want to check when you're doing this that you watch for any drips. It's easy to drip. This stuff can run fairly well. Not going to hurt anything, but for aesthetics, do that. Make sure you get any drips off any corners. Not too thick. I always wipe my brush off both sides when I'm varnishing, so you don't have too much at one time. These pieces are not too bad. Just go back and check, make sure you don't have any drips, make sure it's nice and smooth. It's gonna look real nice, and there it is. So there's the first piece. Do that, however many pieces of teak you have, go ahead and brush them on, keep it nice, thin layers, and then we'll come back after we get the rest of these coat of varnish on.
Alright, as we're working there to finish putting that first coat of varnish on, after you're finished putting that on, you're going to want to let that dry for 8 to 12 hours to make sure that it's good and dry, tack free, and then you'll just repeat the process, sanding it down, wiping it down, putting another coat of varnish, letting it dry 8 to 12 hours, and do that as many times as you would like. Once again, recommend at least 3 additional coats. You could do up to 4 or 5 or even 6 or 7 if you had the time to do that. Once again, the more coats you put on, the longer it will last. And as I'll explain here in a minute, you'll work up to a finer sandpaper for the last couple coats.
Alright, at this point we've sanded, we've wiped down, and then we've recoated with varnish using a good quality paintbrush to do nice thin layers for coats 6, 7, and 8. So we've done that 3 times, sanding with 220 grit sandpaper in between those coats and wiping down each time. The last couple coats, it's a good idea if you go to a smoother sandpaper. I've got some 320 here, may even go up to like a 400 for the last coat. It just helps make that last finish even smoother. And the purpose is not to sand down the coat, to take off what we've already done, but to just get any type of bumps or imperfections that might have gotten in there in between coats. The last couple coats, bump up to a finer grit sandpaper, 320, 400, something like that. Sand it down, and then we'll do those the varnish on it just like we did the other 2 times. Let that dry, for 8 to 12 hours, and do that the last couple coats. So I'm gonna get started, and we'll fast forward through this, and we'll come back at the end of it to see what it looks like.
Alright, as I explained there, I've stepped up to 320 grit sandpaper. Then I actually went up to a 400 sand grit sandpaper for the last coat. Didn't have any footage of the complete final product, but it turned out really well. Just once again, 320, 400 grit sandpaper for the final 2 coats. Wipe it down, put the last coat of varnish on it, and you will not sand it or wipe it down at the final after the final coat.